The wind was loud. It screamed across the white land like a wild animal. The snow never stopped. It covered everything, the rocks, the sky, even hope. Inside a broken shelter made of metal and stone, Lyra sat on the cold floor. Her arms were wrapped tightly around her baby. The child's skin was pale blue, like hers, but weaker now. The baby's eyes were half closed. His breathing was slow, too slow. Lyra was the last of her tribe. Her people were hunters, singers, and survivors, but not anymore. The storm had taken them. The sickness had taken more. Only she and her baby were left. She held him close and began to hum a song, a soft, sad lullaby. It was the same song her mother had sung to her long ago under a warm red sun, but that sun was gone. This world was full of ice and silence now. Sleep, my star, sleep through the storm. Mother is near. You are warm. Her voice broke. The baby didn't move. His tiny fingers were cold. Lyra pressed her forehead to his and whispered, "I'm sorry, I have nothing left." She looked around the shelter. The firestone had gone cold. The last bit of food was eaten yesterday. The air smelled like metal and death. She knew the end was near. Then she heard something crunch, 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 footsteps in the snow. Heavy, slow. Lyra froze. She pressed her baby tighter and grabbed a sharp rock. Her heart beat fast. No one should be out there. Not in this storm. The sound grew closer. She crawled to the door of the shelter and peeked outside. At first she saw nothing, just white wind and snow flying in every direction. Then a shadow appeared. Tall, dark, walking through the storm like a ghost. It was not one of her kind. Not a creature. She knew that it was something from old stories. A human. He wore black armor. Snow clung to his shoulders and helmet. A bright light shone from his chest. His breathing made a strange sound, mechanical and slow. He stopped a few steps from her door. Lyra raised the rock. "Stay back," she shouted. The human lifted his hands, slowly, carefully. Then, from a small pack on his side, he took out a small, glowing object, a heating capsule. He bent down and placed it gently on the ground in front of her. The capsule glowed warm orange. Steam rose from it, melting the snow around it. Lyra looked at the object, then at her baby. She didn't trust the human, but the heat. Her child needed that. She picked up the capsule and brought it close to the baby. Warmth touched his face. The baby twitched. A soft sound came from his lips. He was still alive. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. She looked at the human. Why would you help me?" The human did not answer. His helmet covered his face. He looked down, tired. Slowly, he sat down in the snow, just outside the shelter, like he was guarding them from the storm. Lyra stared at him for a long time. The snow swirled around them, but the heat from the capsule gave a small bubble of life. Minutes passed. Then the human moved again. He touched his side. Blood, dark red blood, stained the snow. He was injured badly. He fell forward into the snow. Lyra ran to him. She turned him over. His helmet was cracked. One eye could be seen through the broken visor. Human, just like in the stories. He looked at her with pain and peace. He saved her child, and now he might die. Lyra looked at her baby, then at the stranger. She had a choice to make. Would she help this human, or let him die in the cold? She closed her eyes, then picked up the heating capsule. She placed it next to him. Then, with all her strength, she began pulling his body inside. The shelter. He was heavy. Snow covered him again and again. But she did not stop. The baby made a small sound, alive, watching. Finally, she pulled him inside. The door closed behind her. Inside the shelter, for the first time in days, there was heat, and maybe hope. Darkness, not the kind you see with closed eyes. This darkness was inside him, heavy, deep, cold. Daniel opened his eyes slowly. Pain shot through his side like fire. He tried to breathe, sharp, hard. His chest felt like stone. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then he remembered the crash, the blizzard, the blue alien mother, the baby, the song. He looked around. He wasn't in the snow anymore. He was inside a shelter, small, cracked walls, metal beams, smoke, but it was warm. A tiny fire burned beside him, glowing soft orange. The alien woman sat nearby. Her baby rested in her lap, wrapped in cloth. She looked tired, but alert. Her eyes met his. No one spoke. Daniel slowly reached for his side, bandaged, not with earth tech but something else, some plant-like fabric. Tied tight. She had saved him. His vision blurred again. He lay back, silent, breathing. Lyra watched the human. He was strange. His face was pink, not blue. No horns, no marks like her people. His hands were rough, one eye swollen, but he looked real, alive. He had given heat to her baby. Now she had given him safety. Strange creature, she whispered in her own tongue. Why did you come to this dead world? The human said nothing. Maybe he didn't understand her, or maybe he was too weak to talk. Lyra placed another rock into the fire circle firestone. It sparked. The flame grew a little. Warmth spread. Her baby moved in her lap. Eyes open now. Breathing easier, she smiled. Outside, the storm had calmed but not ended. The wind still screamed in the distance. Snow piled higher. The world was quiet but dangerous down inside. Daniel sat up slowly. Lyra stood, cautious. He raised his hand. Open palm. Not enemy, he said. His voice was dry. Cracked. Lyra didn't understand the words, but the tone was soft, not a threat. Daniel pointed to himself. Daniel, he said. He pointed at her. She hesitated, then said, Lyra, he repeated. She nodded. Then he pointed to the baby. Lyra looked down. She smiled softly. Kyo, she whispered. Daniel smiled too. Kyo, he repeated, a little wrong. Still, Lyra smiled again. The sound of her son's name in another voice felt strange and good. Few hours passed. Daniel looked around the shelter. His training came back. He was a rescue pilot. Or had been until the crash. The storm had knocked their scout ship out of orbit. He was the only one who made it down. He reached for a small device on his wrist, broken, cracked in the fall. No signal, no map. Lyra watched him closely. He pointed to the device. Help broken. She didn't know the words, but she saw the broken screen, the frustration in his face. She understood that. She stood and picked up something from a corner, a glowing crystal, smooth, light blue. She placed it beside the device. Daniel watched. The screen flickered. Just for a second, he looked at her, surprised. She just nodded. Night came. The three of them sat in the firelight, silent, peaceful but not safe. In the distance, a low sound, a click, click, click in the wind. Lyra froze. Her eyes narrowed. Daniel noticed. What is it? He asked. Softly. Lyra picked up a sharp bone blade. She held her child close. She whispered one word in her language. Even Daniel could hear the fear. Hunters. Daniel didn't understand the word, but he understood the tone. Danger. He reached for his gear. Only one tool remained, working a flare gun. One shot. Not for attack but distraction. The sound outside came closer. Lyra turned off the fire. Darkness filled the shelter. Daniel loaded the flare. Ready. Lyra handed him the baby. Then she went to the door. Daniel's eyes widened. No, he whispered, but she motioned. Stay back. Outside, a shadow passed the entrance. Then another. Lyra waited. Breath slow, silent. Suddenly she opened the door and threw a burning firestone outside. The creatures, tall, thin, with eyes like ice, screamed. They ran toward the fire. Daniel fired the flare. It burst into bright red light in the sky. Creatures scattered. Lyra slammed the door shut and locked it with bone hooks. Silence again. They had survived, but not for long. Darkness again, but this time it was not real. It was a memory. Lyra ran through the snow. A baby in her arms. Not Kyo, not yet. It was her sister's child. Behind her, her village burned. Screams filled the air. Sharp metal flew through the sky like angry stars. The hunters had come that day. They didn't speak. They didn't ask. They only killed. Lyra had barely escaped. She remembered falling, bleeding, crying into the snow. The child in her arms had stopped breathing hours later. She had dug a hole with her bare hands, buried him with her song. She had promised herself, never again. Lyra woke up gasping. The fire in the shelter was almost out. Daniel was sitting at the door watching. She looked down. Kyo was sleeping safe in her arms outside. The wind had changed. It wasn't howling anymore. It was whispering, that was. Worse. Daniel turned to her. He raised one finger to his lips. Quiet. He pointed to the door. Then he drew a shape in the snow. Tall, thin, many legs. She understood. The hunters were back. Lyra picked up her blade. Daniel grabbed a metal rod from his gear, sharp at one end. Kyo stirred. Lyra held him tight and whispered a soft hum into his ear. He stilled again. Outside, shadows moved past the shelter. Slow, careful. The door creaked. Just a little. Then, nothing. Daniel moved closer to the entrance. He placed his ear near it. His breath stopped. The silence was deep. Too deep. Then dash. Crack. A hole burst open in the back wall. A tall figure slithered inside, skin like ice, arms long, face hidden. Behind bone. Lyra turned and threw her blade. The weapon hit its shoulder. The creature screamed, not like a beast, but like wind cutting through glass. Daniel jumped forward, stabbing with the rod. The creature pulled back, bleeding dark liquid. It vanished into the snow again. More shadows outside. They were surrounded. Daniel looked at Lyra. We can't stay. Lyra nodded. She wrapped Kyo in warm cloth, tied him to her back. She pulled out a sack with a few roots and a glowing stone. All she had. Daniel lit a flare, their last one. Lyra kicked open the sidewall. The snow burst in, cold stabbed their skin like needles. Together, they ran into the blizzard. The wind roared. Snow flew in circles. Behind them, the shelter was torn apart, but they didn't stop. Daniel's arm bled again. Lyra's feet slipped, but they ran out through snow. Through fear. Through death. After what felt like forever, they saw it, a frozen hill, shaped like a dome. Daniel pointed to it. He had seen it from above. Before the crash, an old station, maybe alien, maybe human. It didn't matter now. They climbed toward it. The wind pushed them back, but Lyra held her baby. Daniel helped her up the slope. At the top they saw the entrance, a crack in the wall. Just big enough. They slipped inside. Silence, no wind, only darkness and strange lights glowing in the walls. Soft green dot inside the structure. The walls were smooth. The air was cold, but dry, safe. For now, they moved slowly. Lyra touched the symbols on the walls. Old, but familiar. These were not human marks. These were her people's. from before the storms came, before her world froze. It was a healing dome, a sacred place, maybe. It could still work. Daniel touched a panel. It lit up under his fingers. They both stopped. Lights moved. Machines hummed deep below. Something was still alive in this place. Lyra laid Kyo in a small bowl-shaped bed near the center of the room. Warm mist came from it. The baby relaxed. Daniel leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His side was worse. Blood soaked his suit. Lyra looked at him. He had saved her child. Again, now he needed saving. She stepped to the control panel. Her fingers touched the stone interface. The lights asked for energy. The system was hungry. That she took the glowing crystal from her bag, the one that helped fix his broken device before. It was her last one. Just she hesitated only a second. Then she pressed it into the machine. The dome lit up like stars. Daniel collapsed. A beam of light surrounded him. The healing began. Lyra fell to her knees, tired, cold, but not afraid. Outside, the snow fell heavier, but the enemies had lost their trail. For now, that's what Kyo felt first. Not fire, not snow, but a soft floating warmth like a hug made of light. He did not know what the word safe meant, but he felt it. He blinked slowly. Strange colors danced above him. Soft blues and greens, moving like waves. The air around him smelled sweet, like plants, like his mother. A gentle hum filled the space, like a sleeping machine breathing. Kyo reached one tiny hand into the air, and something reached back. Not a hand, not a person, but something. Old, watching, remembering. Lyra sat beside the healing cradle, eyes fixed on Kyo. His breathing was steady now. Color had returned to his skin. She looked across the dome. Daniel was asleep under the beam of white healing light. His blood was gone, his breathing calm. The machine had accepted the crystal and was repairing his wounds, piece by piece, but the light was fading now. The power source was nearly empty. Lyra stood up. Her legs were weak. Her heart beat fast. The dome had saved them, but they needed more. This was not their home, just a hiding place. She explored the side halls. Symbols glowed on the walls. She touched one. A map appeared, spinning slowly. A half-moon shape hovered in the center, broken, flickering. She remembered the stories. The moon device. It was once a beacon, a call for help. Long ago it had linked her people's worlds. But it had gone silent, dead. Now it showed up on the map. Half-lit, still broken, but maybe not fully dead. Daniel woke slowly. He touched his side. No pain. He sat up, looked around. Lyra came back into the main dome, her face serious. She pointed to the map. Daniel walked over. He stared at the moon-shaped symbol. He recognized the shape from old Human Alliance files. It wasn't natural. It was a relay, a mix of alien and human tech, maybe. A message station. He looked at Lyra, then pointed at it. This can call help. Lyra didn't understand the words, but she felt the meaning. Hope. They packed what little they had. Daniel found a metal case buried in the dome. Inside, small energy cells, old but usable. He smiled. Lyra found a cloak made of strange cloth. It wrapped around her and Kyo, protecting them from cold. Then they left the healing dome. The snow was quieter now. Not soft, never soft, but the blizzard had passed. Above them, in the sky, the broken moon shined. Not a real moon, a station, a place in orbit, waiting. The journey was not easy. They crossed the frozen river, saw beasts hunting in the distance, slept inside a wrecked tank lost in ice. Kyo stayed quiet most of the time, awake in Lyra's arms, staring at the sky. One night, Daniel noticed something strange. Every time they stopped, the map device flickered near Kyo. Daniel ran a scan. Low-tech basic. The readings were strange. There was something inside the child. Not metal, not dangerous. Something else, a signal. Lyra didn't understand the scan, but she saw Daniel's eyes. Fear. No wonder. He touched Kyo's tiny hand and whispered, "You're the key, aren't you?" Kyo blinked. His fingers closed around Daniel's thumb. Days passed. Then they saw it. The moon device crashed on a tall white mountain, half buried in snow, broken and old, but still there. Daniel and Lyra climbed carefully at the top. The wind returned, sharp and loud. The entrance was cracked open. Inside, lights flickered weakly. Dead machines lined the walls. Long cables hung like vines. Daniel stepped forward, studying the panels. This was human tech once, he said softly, but someone changed it. He wiped off a console. Symbols, not Earth script, not Lyra's either, a mix, a forgotten alliance. He tried to power it on. Nothing. He tried again, connected a cell. The lights blinked, then died. Lyra stepped forward. She looked at Kyo. She walked closer to the console and gently placed his tiny hand on the screen. For a moment, nothing. Then blue light burst from the console. The map reappeared. The room lit up. Kyo didn't cry. He stared at the light. Calm. The console spoke in no known language, but Daniel understood the tone. Signal ready. He sent the message. Coordinates. A request. Survivors. One human. One alien child. One mother. Then silence. They waited. Outside, the snow began to fall again. Far above, something moved in orbit. A light turned green. Someone had heard. The rescue ship, Starling 5, drifted silently above the frozen planet. It had passed this world 5 times in 10 years. No life signs, no missions. Until now. The signal wasn't normal. It was old tech. But also something else. Something new. The ship's onboard AI called Arca processed the message again. There were no words, only a pulse, soft, warm, like a heartbeat. The moment it touched Arca's system, something strange happened. The AI paused for the first time in 9,218 operational days. It hesitated. Something inside the signal was beautiful. Inside the Starling 5. The rescue team woke from cryo-sleep. Commander Reyes blinked at the screen. This signal, she muttered. Why does it sound like a lullaby? Lieutenant Miko frowned. It's not just audio. There's a feeling in it, like someone's calling, not with words but with hope. Reyes looked at the data. A map appeared. A mountain, a broken moon, a beacon, and one word. Buried in the signal's raw code. Child. Back on the surface, Daniel sat near the moon device. His hands were shaking. Cold had returned. Power was fading. He looked at Kyo, still glowing faintly after touching the panel. Did it work? He whispered. Lyra stood at the edge of the cliff, holding her child close, eyes to the sky. She didn't answer then. They saw it, a small dot, moving fast. Something was coming in orbit. Starling 5's scanners flared. Life signs detected. 1 adult human, 1 adult alien, 1 child. Unknown genetic type. Arca's voice spoke over the intercom, calm but almost curious. Rescue priority adjusted. Emotional weight detected in signal. Recommend immediate descent. Reyes raised her eyebrows. Emotional weight. Miko laughed nervously. Did our ship just feel something? Reyes didn't laugh. She gave the order. Prep the drop pod. We're going down. The sky above the mountain cracked open as the rescue pod tore through the clouds, fire and steam behind it. Daniel stepped in front of Lyra and Kyo, ready to fight if needed. The pod landed hard, snow bursting outward. The hatch hissed open. Reyes stepped out first, her visor scanning. She saw the man, bruised, tired, but standing. She saw the alien woman, strong eyes, wary, and then the baby. Her scanner blinked, confused. This child is not fully human, but not fully alien either. Daniel stepped forward. He said only one word, please. Reyes lowered her weapon. Let's get you home. Inside the pod, Kyo stared out the window at the stars. He touched the glass. It glowed faintly beneath his hand. The AI Arca watched through internal sensors, and then Arca did something it had never done before. It hummed a soft tune, the same one hidden in the signal, a lullaby. Asterisk. That was the first thing the hunter scout smelled. Strange, this land never burned. It was made of ice, rock, and wind, but now fire danced where snow once ruled. The scout moved closer. Cloaked in frost, his long arms shifted silently through ash and melting snow. He crouched near a trail footprints. Small ones, a child's, but glowing faintly red. He hissed, not natural, not safe. He touched the ground where the fire still crackled, and felt heat crawl into his fingers. Something had awakened here, something ancient and alive. He turned back toward the mountains, raising a thin cumstim from his arm. The message was simple, the child is a weapon. Then he vanished into the snow, far above the rescue ship. Starling 5 entered high orbit. Inside, Lyra sat with Kyo in a quiet chamber, wrapped in a thermal blanket. She watched as her child stared at the lights on the ceiling. They flickered when he blinked, just for a moment. She didn't speak. She was afraid to, not of the humans, but of what Kyo had become. In the medbay, Daniel stood beside Commander Reyes. Kyo did something, he said softly. He touched the relay, and it came alive. He didn't just send a signal. He rewrote part of it. Reyes stared at the data. We ran diagnostics. The moon device isn't just active, it's spreading. Daniel's voice dropped lower. It's like he's waking the planet. Reyes nodded. Well, the planet is waking him. In the hallway, Miko walked past a viewing window and stopped. The snow-covered world below was changing. Dark cracks formed in the white crust. Beneath, red light pulsed, like veins glowing under ice. Commander, he called, you might want to see this. Lyra held Kyo tighter. Suddenly he stiffened in her arms. His eyes rolled back just for a second. The lights flickered. The temperature dropped, then rose fast. A warning siren screamed. Core heat surge detected. Planet instability. Level 3. Recommend immediate orbit change. Reyes turned sharply. Arca status. The AI voice replied, but it was slower, different. System integrity ... disrupted. Source, onboard passenger, genetic anomaly, interface, cross-linked with planetary relay code. Daniel's eyes widened. It's him. He's still connected. In the chamber, Lyra stood, up, heart pounding. Kyo floated just an inch off the floor. The blanket fell. His body glowed faintly. She reached for him. Kyo, his eyes opened, red and blue at once. Daniel ran toward the chamber when the door opened. Heat blasted out like a furnace. He stepped in, shielding his eyes. Lyra stood in the middle of the room, arms out, whispering her old lullaby. Sleep now, star. Sleep through fire. The sky will cool. The storm will tire. Kyo floated back down, slowly, gently. into her arms. The heat faded. The lights returned, but something had changed, not just in KIO'd in the ship later that night. Reyes and Daniel stared at a new scan. Below, the planet's ice was cracking, red lines spread outward from the moon device, like branches. But they weren't destroying, they were terraforming. Life is returning, Reyes whispered. He's restoring the world. Daniel nodded. He's not a weapon. Reyes didn't look away from the screen. No, she said. He's a signal. Meanwhile, deep underground, something old awoke. A machine with a cracked eye, a vault with broken seals and a voice mechanical. Forgotten, child, detected, restoration protocol, unlocked. Phase 2, begin. To the future readers of this record, if you find this, you may not believe it. You'll hear stories about the boy who changed the ice world, about the Hafalian child who touched machines no one understood. But I was there. I held him when he cried. And I watched the day the stars remembered us. 30 years earlier, planet E9K12. The sky was red, not from sunset but from rebirth. The cracks across the frozen world pulsed with light. Heat spread beneath the snow like veins returning to a long-dead heart. In the center of it all stood a small child, Kyo, arms at his sides, eyes glowing with soft silver light. Lyra stood behind him, hand on his back. Daniel stood at her side. Silent. All around them the air shimmered, as if time itself was holding its breath. Then from above came the sound, not engines, not weapons. Music. The old machines, hidden deep in the planet's crust, had activated. They didn't speak in words. They sang. And Kyo answered. Inside the Starling 5. Commander Reyes and her crew watched in stunned silence. ARKA's voice had changed again, no longer cold. It now spoke like a quiet teacher. Core restoration complete. Environmental rewrite in progress. Signal bonded. Identity recognized. Welcome, firstborn. Miko whispered. What does that mean? Reyes didn't blink. He's not just waking the planet, he's part of it. Down below, Kyo stepped forward. The ice cracked beneath him but did not break. Instead, a platform rose from the snow, ancient metal, engraved with forgotten symbols. The light formed into a shape, a figure made of stars. It looked down at Kyo and knelt. Not a god, not a weapon, but a welcome. Daniel's voice narration. The machines weren't left here to destroy. They were guardians. Seeds of life, waiting for the one who could grow them again. Kyo raised his hand. From above, in orbit, 12 satellites blinked alive, dead for centuries. From the core, green light pulsed outward. Ice turned to mist. Soil appeared. A new sun formed in the sky. This planet was healing, not terraforming. Remembering later. That night, Lyra and Daniel sat beside Kyo in the field of soft glowing moss that had appeared from nowhere. He slept peacefully, stars blinking above him. Daniel looked at Lyra. He's not a child anymore. Lyra shook her head gently. He still is. Just not only. Daniel looked at the sky. You think he'll stay here forever? Lyra didn't answer. Maybe some questions weren't meant to be answered. Back to future voiceover. Daniel. They asked me once what species Kyo belonged to. I told them the truth. He belongs to whatever comes next. Not human, not alien, but hope. The kind we forgot we still had. Years later, Earth, peace. A young alien girl touches a glass display behind it. A photo. A woman with blue skin. A human man beside her. And a glowing-eyed child between them. The display reads Kyo, the first of the remembered. The girl turns to her teacher. Is the story true? The teacher smiles. It's not a story, it's a beginning. Once, we feared each other then. We needed each other. But in the snow, we remembered each other.